You are listening to Part 2A of the podcast series, 21 Qualities of a Leader.
The secret of charisma, being a person that has a magnetic personality, the secret of charisma is this. Become more concerned about making others feel good about themselves than you are making them feel good about you. That's the secret of charisma. Let me just take a moment and read to you just a story that really defines it well. I love history, so this is kind of a story of two prime ministers out of Britain. Though both had accomplished much for Britain, what really separated them as leaders was their approach to people. The difference can be best illustrated by a story told by a young woman who dined with these two rival statesmen on consecutive nights. When asked her impression of them, here's what she said. When I left the dining room after sitting next to Mr. Gladstone, I thought he was the cleverest man in England. But after sitting next to Mr. Disraeli, I thought I was the cleverest woman in England. When you spend more time making people feel better about themselves than about yourself, you develop this wonderful thing called charisma. Ella Wheeler Wilcox said it so well. There are two kinds of people on earth today, just two kinds of people, no more, I say. Not the good and the bad, for 'tis well understood that the good are half bad and the bad are half good. No, the two kinds of people on earth, I mean, are the people who lift and the people who lean. How many of you know some lifters in your life, huh? You know, they just lift you up. They make you feel better. I mean, when you're around, they just kind of pick up your spirit. How many of you also know some leaners in life? You know, and, they just kind of lean on you a little bit, but, after a whole day, you're just exhausted. You know what I'm saying? Just say, oh, my goodness, okay. In your notes, how would you rate yourself when it comes to charisma? Are other people naturally attracted to you? Are you well-liked? If not, you may possess one of these, what I call roadblocks to charisma, such as pride. Nobody wants to follow a leader who thinks he is better than everyone else. Is that not true? Or how about insecurity? If you are uncomfortable with who you are, others will be too. Or moodiness. If people never know what to expect from you, they stop expecting anything. Or perfectionism. People respect the desire for excellence but dread totally unrealistic expectations. Or how about cynicism? People don't want to be rained on by someone who sees a cloud around every silver lining. Now, a mistake that I made, which is absolutely huge, and this was a mistake that, you look back at your life and you think, boy, if I could just go back and do that over again. As a young leader, when I would go, again, my background was in the beginning pastoring, I would go to a church. My first question would be, as I would look at my congregation, is how can these people help me with my vision? And I'd look at the congregation and I'd say, okay, this person could do this for me, and this person could do this for me, and I was totally centered on how they could help me. One of the defining days of my life was when I switched the question from how can these people help me to how can I help these people? The moment that I began to understand that my job as a leader was to lift people to a higher level than they probably could ever achieve on their own. The moment that I realized that my value as a leader is adding value to people. The moment that I realized that people are my most appreciable asset. The moment that I realized that the only way that I'm ever going to receive much from anybody is to give much first. That it is true that if I help people be all that they possibly can be on the front end, on the back end, they'll help me be all I can possibly be. And what I didn't understand as a young leader is you got to do the giving before you do the receiving. You got to do the planting before you can do the reaping. You've got to be the initiator first. Leaders always go first. And this is especially true if you want to develop charisma. For there are lifters and there are leaners. The lifter looks at an individual and they says, how can I lift this person? How can I add value to them? How can I help them? The leaner basically comes and says, oh my goodness, how can they help me?